Brian Labrie.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for making the trip.
Yeah, a little bit of a haul to get here, but well worth it. Nice place up here.
Take the scenic route?
I got rerouted through the scenic route, yeah.
Yeah. And you said that you used to do a lot of snowmobiling.
Did a lot of snowmobiling at Wakefield, Moultonborough, Ossipee, all those clubs up here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're awesome. The trails are great. I haven't been up here lately. I don't know what you guys get for snow up here these days. I know back in the day it was nice.
It still gets pretty heavy up here.
Yeah.
So this was your first term in the state rep?
This was my first term. This past year was my first term, so I got one to go here.
Yeah. And how are you liking it?
I like it. It's a little bit different than you'd think it would be. The first year is kind of like a learning curve with procedure and whatnot, and I feel like there's the laws that you need to know about, and there's the protocol with Office of Legislative Services, and then there's your caucuses and your parliamentary procedure, and there's a lot of things. There's a lot of moving parts in the first year to digest. Definitely like drinking from a fire hose, not to use that cliche, but it's definitely kind of a lot of stuff.
And you've been involved in public service before?
So the most public service I've been involved in is Conservation Commission in my local town of Bedford.
Mm-hmm.
Other than being a team player and adopting roads and stuff like that, I don't have a big history in politics or town council or anything like that. So for me, it's kind of an introductory year.
Mm-hmm. So what was your motivation to run for state rep?
You know, if you, I guess you could live by the mantra, or at least I try to live by the mantra. You know, if you're going to complain about something, you've got to be able to step up and step in, and you know, don't complain if you don't want to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what it wasn't that I wanted to get in there and change the world, because I knew that wasn't going to happen, but I felt like if I could at least be part and be present, then I could maybe stop bad bills or contribute to good bills moving forward.
And was there anything in particular that really pushed you over the edge and made you want to do it? One
so
issue?
Last year, not this past year we just went through, but the previous term, there was very tight margins in the House. And it was to the point where if somebody was absent for a day, you could lose a lot of votes. So I kind of wanted to it was kind of my year to kick in Bedford, and I felt like if we could get a good team, which we did, we assembled 5 out of 7, which isn't bad, reps, and I felt like if we could get those folks up to Concord and just try to get numbers, you know, Bedford used to be a very red town, and it's slowly turning blue, and it seems like every 2 terms we lose a seat. So we just needed to push, and we did, and we got 5 out of 7 back. So it was good news.
That's good.
But it's a numbers game up there in Concord,
yep.
And you know, I think we're pretty heavy now. I don't know if it's 222 on a Republican side or thereabouts, but it's got a significant margin better than it was 2 years ago.
A lot of towns are starting to creep towards being less red.
You know, I'd like to say I can speak to the southern towns on the border of Mass, and that's where the creep is. The slow creep comes from there.
Yeah.
I don't know about, you know, Effingham, Wakefield, Ossipee.
We call your area northern Massachusetts.
Yeah, right, for what it's worth. Do you feel that here, or are you guys red?
We're pretty red here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do see a lot more of a liberal mindset moving in, I think. I think I see it. I ran in 2014 as an independent, and to do that, I had to get 150 registered voters to sign a nomination paper. And I didn't really know anything back then, so all I did was I just started knocking on doors. And I would say the majority of people were Republicans back then. There weren't a lot of Democrats, and I think there's more Democrats than there were, but there's also more Republicans as well, because so many people moved in here, and the influx of people, the majority of those people are Republicans running from blue states.
It's a hard dynamic to figure out. It really is, especially whether it's up here at the Lakes region or if it's down in Bedford and Nashua.
Yeah, I think we're kind of waiting for the dust to settle after COVID.
That's a piece of it, right? But
Yeah.
The other piece of it too is even prior to COVID, people were moving in from Massachusetts into southern New Hampshire, and they're Democrats,
Mm-hmm.
and you know they've got decent careers and they've got decent money, and they don't really need the help, the social help, if you will. Not that that's the only platform they have. But these folks would move across, and you would think to yourself, and you got to keep an open mind in politics, right?
Right.
How can these people be of a democratic mindset when they're fairly well off? They've got kids in good schools, and do they just hate the leadership that much in the Republican Party at the highest levels?
Could be.
Maybe.
Do you think
that's a driver?
They think that it's the role of government to make people's lives better, and that it's government action that does that? Because I think that some people think that you can vote for the government, you can vote for more laws that improve people's lives, and that the government will do it efficiently, which I don't think that that's the case at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the government does nothing efficiently. And if you look at our $37 trillion debt, which we just added 3.5 more to,
right,
it does zero efficiently. So that's certainly a mindset option. I also think that Democrats and Republicans typically are born from their parents down generationally. And that's and the boomers right now are in the major retirement mode.
Yeah.
And I don't know, are they moving north? Are they moving over the border? Are they coming into their smaller homes? We certainly don't have any housing here to really pick from. It's just an interesting dynamic. I thought, we're trying to battle in Bedford. We're trying to battle a what was red town that's becoming purple.
But why did they move out of their blue states?
I don't know if it's, who do they want the best of both worlds, right? Let's get as much out of the government as we can in New Hampshire, but let's not pay any taxes either.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Do they want to preach we need the taxes, but they don't want to pay any? Who knows?
I know a guy that lives in it's a homeowners association. They don't even have a homeowners association. They just pay for plowing, really. They just organize for plowing. It's a private road. And since COVID had happened, all these people that have moved in, they've been pushing for more services like trash pickup. They've been telling other people what to do. Like, you have too much stuff on your yard. You got to get rid of that vehicle over there. Just that type of stuff. Just micromanaging other people. And I think that that's the worst mindset to have move into your town, is people that want to micromanage other people. And even on the Facebook pages, on the group Facebook pages, there's a lot of people that go on just to complain about other people. And Facebook and social media has made things so much worse, where I look at these groups now, and I can't stand it, because it's just people complaining about other people, and those are your neighbors.
It is, and misery loves company, and complaining is contagious.
Absolutely.
Right. So you raise a good point. And to get back to your question about what maybe drives that slow creep across the border, and the more you think about it, we live in a wonderful state where the taxes are really suppressed. And there's a lot of freedoms here that may not exist over in Massachusetts, right? And I think as people get older, the boomers, they love the fact that they can maybe not have to rely on the state personally, but maybe their kids could while they take advantage of no taxes.
Yeah.
It's hard to get in the psyche really of this, but.
Well, they seem to be the only ones that can really afford the housing up here.
They certainly, and it's another thing too, is when you stereotype and you think of Democrats, you think of inner city Manchester, Nashua, fairly low income possibly. I don't think that's always the case. I mean, as I knock doors in Bedford, for every Republican I go to house to that's 1.5 million, I'll go to a Democratic house that's 1.5, and the guy's a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. So it's two different psychological profiles that you're trying to lobby for. And you running as an independent, I'm interested to see, does that have traction? You got Elon Musk now with the America Party that he just came out with, and I would say to that and to independents, that's great. Like in Elon's case, who's running for president? Who are you going to prop up to run for president?
Right.
It's not going to be him.
No.
So where does that party go? And that's always been the problem with that middle party, whether it's Tea Party or anything else, is there's no end game. From a presidential or high up.
Well, I think he wants to make it the party of the socially liberal and economically conservative mindset, but I don't think that people can get along on that line. And as far as like the Republican Party, who are we going to have run in 2028? I don't know if the Republicans really have anybody right now, and the Democrats don't seem to have anybody at all either. So we're in a really strange period right now on the national scale of we have no idea who it's going to be. Trump has been the head of the Republican Party for like 10 years now. You know, he's run 3 times.
Yeah.
And some people say he won 3 times. But and Democrats have just been recycling their same old people that they've always had. Joe Biden's been around for 30, 40 years.
Nationally and locally, too. You know, I just saw on the news last night, I don't know her name, but there was a girl who was going to run against Jay Rouet out of Manchester for mayor. And she bailed out. And now they have nobody. So we may see this trend. Now, you hear different things in the back, right? You hear the Democrats are coming for certain Senate seats, right? There's 3 or 4 that they want bad, New Hampshire state Senate seats. They're going to put a big effort toward House reps in different areas, and they're going to, who knows, right? But I guess if you look at the dynamic of who could run for president in 28, I don't know. There's always a default to the VP, right? I don't know if JD's got the horsepower. You know, and then they look to the cabinet picks a lot of times, right? Who's in the cabinet? I'll tell you what, the Elon thing I never saw coming.
No.
I never saw that coming. I saw a great relationship there. And when Elon stepped away and got upset with the big, beautiful bill, I said to myself, here we go again. And I'm a Trump guy, right? I'm not MAGA hard right, but I like Trump and I like his principles. And then all of a sudden you see Elon get into a beef with him. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, this is a flashback of 2016 when Trump went right through the cabinet and fired every single one of them.
It happens every time.
And it happens every time. And it's like he does this with everybody. We know you got this great show, The Apprentice. Please don't bring it to national TV every night.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I wasn't surprised when that happened because, like you said, in 2016, he just went through the whole cabinet. And it's going to happen again. He rubs elbows with the swamp too much, I think. And then he goes after people like Thomas Massey, who have, for the most part, he was the one that voted against the, what was the bill in 2020 that I think they tacked on like $8 trillion to the debt, the big spending bill.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of Swamp City.
He was the only person that voted against it, and he was right. He said this is going to cause an insane amount of inflation, and it did.
You think about the $37 trillion that we have, plus the 3.4 over 10 years that we're going to have to deal with, right? There's no mathematically, there's no coming back from that. No matter what you do, because you have to cut spending or raise taxes. And as long as we have the structure we have with the House and the Senate and the way it's built out, you'll never get these people to agree. Yeah. So that debt has no place to go but up. Yeah. Right. So
without cutting $2 trillion,
it'll never happen. It just will never happen. It's just not going to happen. You can't get the people on board
unless we default.
So when you default, what happens?
Collections.
Right. Exactly. You default. What happens? You get a currency change. I wrote an op-ed about this 2 months ago.
You did.
And what can happen when you default on your loans, right? Usually you go to war with whoever you borrowed the money from, right? That's a piece of it. And the second thing is Keith Hammond, thank God, just got a bill passed here in the state that we can use 5% or I think it's 5 or 10% reserve currency would be in Bitcoin or digital. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
That was a huge win, so we can stack precious metals, we can stack digital. A lot of states, we were the first in the nation to do that. Keith did a fantastic job with that, him and Jason. That's the direction this is headed in my opinion. Digital's coming, whether we like it or not. And I think when you have that much debt, there'll be a total reset. Who knows what it looks like? Hopefully not Great Depression, 1933. But I think you're going to see a digital out here.
It's already digital now too, though, if you think about it. I mean, how many dollars are actually in circulation in physical form?
Not what there used to be, but on the printing press, we've got to get away from printing this money. It's just it's a national security threat, which is amazing that they passed that bill. And I like a lot of pieces of that bill. There's a lot of good things in it, tax breaks and stuff like this. But the big 3.4, I think it's 3.4 trillion at the end of it is just scary.
When Trump took office, we were $20 trillion in debt.
Yep.
And when COVID first hit, this is almost the end of his first term, I think we were $23 trillion in debt. That was pretty good, considering that when Obama took office, Bush took it from $4.5 trillion to $10 trillion. Obama took it from 10 to 20, And then at the end of Trump's first term, he was only $2 or $3 trillion higher.
Yep.
And then COVID hit, and you saw this huge increase in just that year alone.
Big payouts. Everybody got big payouts.
Everybody did. They all cashed out.
PPP loans and all this jazz.
Mm-hmm. And they gave everybody $1,200 stimulus checks. That here you go. That's just for the little guy.
Yeah.
That was nothing compared to what people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos did. They increased their wealth by, 4 times, 3 times as much?
Yeah. It was a bad segment of American history, no doubt about it, going through that COVID spell.
They robbed us blind.
We got robbed blind, and we're going to pay for it forever now.
Yeah. And we're paying for it because less and less, the median age of a homeowner is going higher and higher because younger people can't afford to buy a home. I saw one online that just for a rental was $3,000 a month, and it was an apartment. And I don't know who could afford that apartment. And there was another house I saw. It was just a regular 1,000 square foot house, maybe 1,200 square feet on a postage stamp size lot, and it was $400,000. Young people aren't having kids, and that's the biggest problem that we have right now.
Yep. Yeah. You got no kids. You got school budgets that are right through the roof. Property tax is 72% of that.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got for every 100 teachers you have, you've got like 200 para assistants and extra superintendents and all kinds of other stuff. It's ridiculous. And the kids can't read, they can't do math. Adequacy levels are horrible. It's just it's just bad news.
And the mental health crisis that we face too.
Yeah, but the good news is we've got great reps like Glenn Cordelli, like Kristen Noble, and Rick Ladd, and a lot of these folks that are fighting for this in Concord. At least here in the state. In terms of trying to get EFAs to come together, which they did, and offer more opportunity for the kids. So even though it's expensive for us, at least the kids can learn out of it.
Yeah.
And by going to a school of their choice, that's helpful.
So you must have done a lot of door knocking when you ran.
I did a lot of door knocking.
And did you go to a lot of like blue areas when you do those door knockings?
So we have I-360 or different walk platforms that we use. So typically you kind of stay out of those areas that you're going to probably not be able to win over. So to answer your question, did I go to knock on blue doors? Yes. Was it on purpose? No.
How'd it go?
No. So it went good because I'm not a confrontational guy and I'm not trying to push my agenda, and I'll listen to you. I may not agree with it, but let's talk it out type of thing. And I'd rather negotiate. There are other folks that were amongst our ranks that may have tried to push their agenda to people that weren't willing to listen to it. And it can end up with, you need to get off my property type of stuff. That never happened to me. I know people it did happen to. I think you can do better if you just try to be calm and explain your position and listen to theirs too.
Yeah.
That's important,
Yeah, because I can tell you from experience, I would go to people's houses and talk to them about politics. And some of them were Democrats, some of them were Republicans. I didn't know it until I started talking to them because at the time I didn't even know that was all public information, that you could just go look up the vote rolls and see who was.
Yeah.
And the people that were Democrats, a lot of them would say, well, normally I wouldn't agree with you on a lot of what you have to say, but because you sat here and talked to me, I'm willing to fill out your nomination paper.
I heard that a lot too. And if Bedford in particular has a lot of independents, registered independents here. So you had your Republicans and your Democrats, and we knew where those were, but the majority of the list was right down the middle. And you think about that play, registering as an independent. It really gives you, if you think about it, it really gives you the best of both worlds, because it allows you to listen to everybody and not just put the blinders on and go with the one guy who may not be the greatest candidate. I'm not advocating for voting for Dems. I'm just saying, from an independent perspective, it gives you a broad range of selection.
Yeah, I was always a registered independent until about 2 years ago. I think it was 22 was when I changed it. I left it to Republican.
Yeah, there's a good contingent of that here in the state, I think, top to bottom.
But the independents, those are the largest chunk of voters.
Yeah, no doubt. And certainly in Bedford. And when you get into these purple districts, Senate District 9, that's got a lot of independent people in there too, and it just becomes who can get the work done.
Yeah.
And who makes the promises and delivers them, and who makes the promises and turns into somebody who can't deliver a soapbox, and me, I, and you get nothing done.
I think a lot of people just want normalcy too.
Yeah.
They want people that are gonna support common sense legislation.
I was on the labor committee this last year.
I saw that. Yeah.
I own a couple businesses in the southern part of the state, so my world is business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the education guy. I'm not the criminal justice guy. I'm not judiciary or things like that. I'm happy to listen to it all, and we have to on session day. But I seem to when you talk business with somebody behind, you knock on a door and you talk business with somebody, they'll listen. Mm-hmm. They respect that. They respect veterans. It's a rung of credibility, I think.
Now, you're still in business?
I am. I'm 52. My hopes are to retire when I'm 60. Lofty goal. I got 8 years to go. I've had a landscape construction company that does commercial installs since 1996.
Nice.
5 years ago, right at the beginning of COVID, I started, if you can believe it, a portable toilet company.
Nice.
in the southern part of the state, right? It's a little bit of a weird thing, but it's there's probably 10 of us in the state where there's 3,000 landscapers.
Yep.
So you do the math.
Yeah. So how has it been over the last few years finding labor?
Labor's tough. I can tell you COVID did some real damage from a landscape perspective. Here's a good story for you. We had contracts in place. COVID hits. Can't find any labor all of a sudden. Everybody wants to stay home because they're paid.
Mm-hmm.
We remember these days. Mm-hmm. You're in the same industry to a degree. And all of a sudden, there's nobody who wants to work.
Yeah.
So I'm actually now competing with the federal government for wages. Is it cheaper? Can Joe make more money off the feds by staying home, or can he come to work for me? So it now becomes a bidding war.
Yeah.
So a guy that would make, just say in our industry, $18 an hour, right? $19 an hour, now comes to work after he gets his first few checks from Uncle Sam and says, I'm not coming back to work for anything less than $25.
Yep.
This rolls into $30. So now I've got guys making $26, $27, $28 cutting grass. How does that work? It doesn't. And when you're locked into a contract, multi-year contract, you can't disappoint.
No.
You can't disappoint and walk away from the condo.
Right.
And you've got to pay the guy. So what happens to your margin? It goes down to almost nothing. Mm-hmm. So there were weeks last year where I was flirting with not taking a paycheck to make sure all the bills were paid and all our labor was paid and our bonuses were met. So COVID did a number on a lot of businesses, and they're still recovering today, and they're going to be recovering for a long time.
I haven't even thought of the multi-year contracts.
Yeah, imagine being locked in, and that's industry standard with condos for maintenance and stuff. So, if you get a contract with a condominium, 100-unit condo, you'll probably lock that up for 3 years with snow in maintenance. And I can tell you for 21, 22, and 23. As much as you'll have some industries, like even the snowmobile industry, say that was great because everybody was buying sleds and they were riding in Pittsburgh, and there was plenty of activity outdoors because they were pushing everybody outdoors, right? Mm-hmm. So while we had an opportunity, and we made some good money on like backyard installs and outdoor kitchens and fire pits and patios and stuff like that. We did well there, but we got killed in maintenance. So it was break even. One supported the other, and it was just a tough time. On the portable toilet side, that has shot straight to the moon and hasn't stopped because the people that never got one, that did get one during COVID, now continue to get one every summer for their backyard instead of putting everybody in the house, beating up the septic system.
Yep.
So that was a winner, thankfully.
Did you receive any of the PPP loans as a business owner?
So on the landscape side, we did get a PPP loan. I think it was like $60,000 on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's all public information.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did it for my business because nobody knew it was going to happen.
I will tell you, I do thank God for my accountant that I share an office with. She was stellar with that. There was a lot of guidelines that you had to follow for that.
Yep.
From separate bank accounts to everything. It could only be used for payroll and essentials and stuff like that.
80% of it, yeah.
Yeah, so
go to payroll and utilities, rent. You pay for that type of stuff.
Yep.
When I did it, I just paid for labor. I just paid my guy, made sure he had the money that he needed, and because there were job sites getting shut down, and nobody was really sure what was going to happen. You had 8 weeks, I think. Yeah. Then on the 8th week, they extended that, I think, to 12 weeks. It was already gone at that point. But
Yep. We did not. I don't think we put in for anywhere near the maximum amount that we could have. We put in just enough to kind of cushion the blow a little bit on a couple weeks that were thin. Mm-hmm. Not something I'm proud of adding to that national debt, but every bit of it was used the right way. And hopefully we never have to go there again. Yeah, hopefully, because that's part of the reason why we're seeing all the inflation that we have now. It is. And I know paying guys $25-$30. You never thought you'd be paying a guy $25-$30 an hour to mow lawns, but it's Craig. It's not even that too. It's how long can I? That hasn't changed. No. So it's not like we got on the other side of this and then I came back down to 19 or 20. We're still there and higher.
That's the new bottom.
Because
the cost of living's gone up as well. Yeah. You can't really raise a family if you're making less than $25 an hour.
And this goes back to the housing that we were talking about a minute ago. So I am literally forced to pay these guys $25-$30 an hour. Yeah. And in OT, right up into OT, right? In order to get them to be able to rent an apartment in Manchester. Yeah. If I don't pay it, first of all, somebody else will. Yep. Second of all, if I paid them low dollar, they just can't find any place to live. So they're living with a friend, and that turns into a month, which is temporary, and then they leave to go back home or do whatever they want to do. I don't know. Luckily, we've got a good American and Puerto Rican contingent that works for us. A lot of good guys have been with me for years, loyal, but they get paid,
How's it been with competition? Are you seeing with the rise of illegals over the last 4 years more competition than you used to?
Here's what I can tell you about that. Let's stay with the landscape side for a minute. Yeah. The same landscape companies that have been around for 10 or 20 years, most of them are still there. I've noticed and I'll use the neighborhoods of Bedford, the back roads of Bedford, right? I've noticed trucks, no lettering, maybe Mexican run, not a lot of accountability. There's no name on a truck. There's no phone number. Who do you call? I've noticed that that's more of a player probably in the last 5 years. Yeah. It's always been there, but I've noticed now it's definitely more of a player. So that's tricky because there's not a lot of insurances that they carry. They probably don't do things by the book, and you could say, well, the homeowner's going to get hurt if there's ever a problem. Mm-hmm. The homeowner is 9 times out of 10 willing to take that gamble. And I can go knock on that same door and preach my spiel, but if he's charging them $50 to cut the grass and I'm $150, $50 is going to get it done. Yeah. So that's tricky. That's a tricky piece too. But
I was talking to a guy that works in insurance not that long ago. He was telling me about the problem with people coming from third world countries starting companies illegally, and when something does happen, somebody gets hurt, they pack up and they leave, and they just take off. Even if something happens on the job site, they just disappear, and the insurance companies end up eating any damages.
Yeah, there's nothing pretty about illegal immigration. No. And you just see it at night on Channel 9 coming across the border, but it goes a lot deeper than that too. There's a lot of things that get wrecked from people that do business by the book that have to compete with stuff like that.
Tough. Yeah. Yeah. And then the biggest thing right now, I think, for a lot of businesses is just finding help.
I'll tell you, I'm a big numbers guy, right? So our unemployment right now is 3.1%. A year ago, it was like 2.2%. So in the last year, unemployment has risen. Mm-hmm. There are, if you want to get a job, you can get a job.
Absolutely.
And the trick is it's like eBay. You're bidding for the employee, mm-hmm. whether it's Benny's or just straight up salary, hourly rate, whatever it is, perks. Yeah. You're literally bidding for the employee, and you don't know if that's going to last. Mm-hmm. Could last a week, could last 10 years. You don't know. So we just went through this with the New Hampshire Snowmobile Association. We just hired a new executive director. 24 applicants, got down to about 6. Really, the last 6 were really sharp. And then there's a lot that you take into consideration with it, bennies and going rates and hours and salaries and everything that's rolled into it. So the employees are out there. You just got to pay. I would answer that like that.
Yeah. The labor committee that you're on. So what are some of the things that you do on the labor committee as a member?
Yeah. So to start off, having no experience and getting into the legislature as a newbie freshman, first thing out of the gate, right to work. Right to work comes across the table, and you got the unions and things like this. And that was a big bill that did not get passed.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to be able to make it so you don't have to be beholden to unions anywhere here in the state. And there's just some factions out there that want to make this not go away. I'm not a union guy. I don't believe in it. If you want to do union, you do you. Fire, police, schools, in the public realm, maybe it's got a place, right? I just never liked the thought that you could have union folks walk onto your job that you created in your company and give the company spiel to your employees.
Yeah.
And potentially put your rates through the roof, put you out of business. So I ended up going on the labor committee. I'd picked 3 other ones. I actually picked election law. I picked resources, recreation, and legislative administration. And I could put on labor, which is interesting. I know I watched Glenn's bit here, and Glenn had mentioned that he picked education.
Yeah.
He got education.
Yeah.
I got placed wherever they felt I needed to go. But owning a couple of business, you can understand why they'd plug you in there. But you get stuff like right to work, and you got unemployment numbers that come across, and the opposition wants to raise these and make it a little bit easier if you're out of work. You can collect more money weekly. So we try to. The problem is the businesses pay for it. If the businesses don't, the taxpayer does. Mm-hmm. So we try to suppress this stuff in order to live in New Hampshire and not pay crazy taxes. That was what I saw. I saw the labor committee. That was one of our jobs, was to be on the front lines and make sure that we suppress taxes. And it can get away from you really quick, whether it's beating up the business owner for more workman's comp, and just stuff like that. So we saw maybe 40 bills come through, just a variety of stuff, 2-hour minimums and remote workers having their 2-hour minimum taken away from them.
2-hour minimum?
Yeah. Are you familiar with that law?
No.
So there's a 2-hour minimum law here in the state where basically it's a report to work. So if I call you in on a Tuesday and I say, hey, Craig, I need you to work Tuesday, and you show up, and then I say, Craig, things didn't work out. I don't need you today. There's a law on the books that goes back to the mid-'80s that says that I've got to pay you I got to pay you a 2-hour minimum.
Yep.
Right? And most business owners already have a deal worked out with the employees that I'm going to take care of you regardless in some capacity. And this was something that we thought needed to be repealed because it's the big brother. It's the state telling you how to run your business, since the 80s. So these were the type of projects that we'd work on, little projects like this. And there was a whole host of stuff that came across. It was an interesting year. It was good.
So the right to work legislation, you probably got a lot of those phone calls and emails.
Yeah. So beside the constituents I have in Bedford that wanted to repeal inspections.
Inspections?
Yeah, vehicle inspections.
Okay, yeah.
The most important or the biggest quantity of emails that I got, I would say, was probably right to work.
And support or against?
And it was mostly supporting, it was mostly against repealing or mostly against right to work. Mm-hmm. So it was unions, and it wasn't New Hampshire unions. It was like unions from Boston, and it was like chain stuff, bulk stuff. Mm-hmm. And there was like 1 million emails every day of the week, and it got to the point where you couldn't even move in your email box or find one that was like legit because there were just so many of them.
It just copy and paste, right?
Copy and paste, and then once in a while you get a random one in there. Luckily for me, I had no threats. That nobody went that far with me. I have heard of other reps being threatened for different stuff. I will tell you one thing that was interesting is, as a freshman, nobody knows who I am. And walking into the building on hearing day. You have to walk up the stairs. You got to run the gauntlet, right? So you walk through with all the picket signs, and here you are. You're dressed up in your suit and your briefcase, and you're walking into the LOB, and you got million guys here, electrical union, all these different unions, and they're all like, "Good morning, Representative Labrie. Good morning." And I'm like, "I don't even know my name. How do these guys even know your name?" And they know. They do their homework. They know who you are. They know who everybody on the committee is. They're sending you emails. Hey, unions are a great thing. Stick with unions. Don't try to pull unions back. And I don't know.
Must be because you were on the labor committee. I mean, there's 400 people in there. So
there's 400 people on there, and on our labor committee, I think we had 20. Might have 20 guys, 10 Dems, 10 Republicans. So they knew who we were, and they knew what direction we were walking in. They knew what time the hearing was,
Now, are there protesters at the State House every day, or just when there's something like that going on?
I got to tell you, there are protesters there. It's not every day of the week. It's probably once every 2 weeks, to be fair. And I would tell you that I would say Right to Work was probably the biggest. And it was the first. And it was quick. And it was like, sit down, you're on the labor committee. Here's the rule book. And then the next day it was like, all right, we're going to hear Right to Work. It's like we didn't even get any warm-up pitches. It was like right into Right to Work, and it was tons of testifying, tons of testimony. It was something. It was a whirlwind. That was the fire hose that week. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so I had Matt Drew on here recently, and he was telling me there's basically 3 factions of the Republican Party in Concord right now. And so he said there's like the libertarian side, more moderate Republicans, and then you have your hard right Republicans. Where would you put yourself in that?
So on the gauge, right? Use the needle on the gauge here. You've got your free staters. Then you've got your libertarians. Then you've got your conservatives. Then you've got your moderates. And then you've got your rhino liberals.
Okay.
I'm in the libertarian camp.
Okay.
I'm not as far as the Free State.
Now, what's different with the Free Staters and the Libertarians?
I think the Free Staters would go one step further. And there's no disrespect to the Free Staters. They're great people. I know them all. And they're wonderful guys and girls. I see things a little bit different from a business perspective. I see that we can't take away everything. We got to leave some stuff, some infrastructure. And I'm not saying that's all they do, but there's got to be money to pave roads. And there's got to be some money for this and that, right? We can't just gut everything. And sometimes I get a whiff that that's what that Free State project can do. Again, great people, great intentions. I'm not that far right. I'm libertarian, meaning I don't like taxes. And if we can reduce them, let's reduce them. But let's be cognizant of the fact that we need our roads paved and we need some basic infrastructure, water, sewer, these things. You know what I mean? I'm also for, let's not, from a town local control thing, we can have this discussion. I'm not looking to gut local control out of any town. Having said that, I've been through enough property development experiments to know you cannot have tons of red tape to choke you either. So to go to a planning board that requires typically like 1 or 2 meetings, and them to tell you it takes 10, that's absurd.
Who's telling you it takes 10?
So previous history, if I would go in Merrimack when I've developed some properties, I'd have to go before the zoning planning commission in Merrimack. And every little thing they would get you on to get you back to another meeting to try to just wear you down. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing in every town.
I've had it happen to family, yeah.
Right? And I don't know if that is, obviously it's done deliberately, but I don't know if that's a power thing. Like, when sometimes you go to town hall and you do your car registration and they're like, oh, you left off the period, please go to the end of the line. Or whatever, right? Something like that. I always get the feeling that that's kind of what it was like. And so something that should have taken 1 meeting ends up taking 10.
It's a form of lawfare.
It is kind of a form of lawfare. And it's annoying.
And it's a group of people. It doesn't even have to be the government. It can be a group of people that don't want something in their area, even though they didn't buy the land, they don't pay the taxes on that land. They just don't want something here. I've had people in my own family that's happened to, and it was people from out of state who had second homes around this piece of property that didn't want anybody to develop this piece of property in the way that they wanted to, even though it wouldn't have affected any of them anyways.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing.
They get their own agenda, at the end of the day, like you said, and they got a group. They all get elected. Even though they tell you that town councils and things like this are supposed to be bipartisan, right? Mm-hmm. That's not the case. They're slanted one way or the other, and depending on who the client is in front of them, that may play into it. Anyways, getting back to the Free State folks, I mean, then you can look at the really wonderful examples. You get the Tom Mannings of the world. You get the Mike Grangers of the world. Granger, with a lot of help from some other people, and not to discount anything he did, he got inspections repealed. Mm-hmm. And that had been tried for years.
And it's not a crazy idea. There's a lot of states that don't have inspections. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there's 34 states that don't have it. We were one of the last 14 or whatever it was, or 16 or whatever, to get rid of it. There is merit in that movement. There is. I just look at things just slightly different, just from a business perspective, and I put that slice of the pie in there before I make a decision.
Yeah.
So from a liberty thing, if you looked at me on my scorecard, I'm probably an A, not an A+.
Yeah.
Or an A-.
So you're not an anarcho-libertarian?
No,
yeah.
Not at all. No,
okay.
No. I don't see the value in it. I understand the mentality. I just don't see the ultimate value in it. That's all.
So you supported the EFAs, I would assume?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So you support school choice then?
I support school choice 100%.
Now,
I think that's important.
Does it worry you about where public education could go with this?
Public education needs a 100% complete overhaul, mm-hmm. from top to bottom, especially when it commands 72% of your property taxes. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. I just read an article today. DeSantis wants to get rid of property tax in Florida.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Says it could be a huge hit to real estate. Who knows? Follow it and see how it goes. But
how would they make up the funding for that?
I didn't get that deep into it.
Yeah.
I knew it was controversial. I read the first paragraph, saw that there were 2 people for it, 2 people against it.
Yeah.
And I don't have this kind of time or bandwidth to dedicate to this right now.
Yeah.
This is going to be a 3-hour read. I don't know. We need an overhaul. I just want to see kids. Look, Japan, all these countries that have huge great rates of reading and math and everything else, adequacy. We have nothing. We're horrible. We're in the 40s.
So what are they doing different?
That's the key. What are they doing different? I don't know what they're doing different, but whatever they're doing different, we need to be doing it and not reinventing the wheel. The first step in that is EFAs, in my opinion. And I had nothing to do with that. Education wasn't my world, but I watched it. I supported it. I support Glenn 100%. I support Kristen Noble 100%, his co-chair. It's a great thing. It allows the kid to now go in an environment where he can thrive. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of the things we were missing. The opponents of this will cry foul and say that you're going to crash the public school system. I say, should we start thinking about an overhaul? It's a lot of money, man.
Well,
it goes into that.
The public education system, the idea of a classroom where you're going to have one person in charge of 25 or 30 kids, each kid's not, you have to rely on every kid being 100% tuned into what that teacher is teaching them and them receiving what they're being taught, or else they're going to fail. And that teacher doesn't have enough resources to go to every single kid and give the time needed. Whereas homeschool kids, if you're homeschooled, you probably have a parent home with you, and that parent is going to be one-on-one, and you're going to get a better quality of education. And they know that private schools, homeschooled, charter schools, that those kids have a better education. They do better. They perform better. So that's what we need to really look at, I think. And it's not about we shouldn't be zealous about funding public schools to the point where it hurts education. And I think that's where we're at right now. And the school union has a lot to do with that. There's a lot of money that goes into the school unions, and the top person at the school union, I said this before when Glenn was on, makes $450,000 a year to be the head of the school union. So
this is the same person that went to college and told everybody who asked him, I'm not in it for the money.
Yeah.
That same dude making $450.
Oh, it was a woman. It was Randy Weingarten.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing.
That's more money than the president.
Right. So how do you justify that?
Yeah.
Right. And that's a trickle down thing.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately the teachers aren't seeing that. The administrators are seeing that, and all the help is seeing that, the paras and the whatever. Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a problem that's not going to get solved anytime soon in
public school.
In public school
I think
entirety.
This is going to open doors for teachers. If you went to school and you spent a lot of money to become a teacher, this is going to open up doors for you to be able to make more money in private schools and even tutoring. Like Glenn had said that people can start their own schools locally.
One thing I can tell you is this was a multi-prong approach.
Mm-hmm.
We have parental rules that we get back now. So you now have the
Parental Bill of Rights.
Parental Bill of Rights, right? So that was a Sherm Packard thing that he sponsored. So we got that over the finish line. That helps. Because if you can't get the information out of the schools, what your kids are doing, you really don't even know how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is adequacy really 40% or is it 30%?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So with this Parental Bill of Rights, you get that information. I know like Kristen Noble, she's working on, garbage graffiti and not graffiti, but graphic porn books and stuff in the schools. And the kids should be reading this stuff. And, masks, right? She's a big champion for no masks.
Mm-hmm.
This all has to work together. It took off so fast.
Yeah.
And it hit so hard, all of it at once. And it was like everything that happened, it was totally planned, right? All the different factions got together. We're going to put masks. We're going to put, books that kids shouldn't be reading. We're going to put whatever. We're going to jam all this stuff. We're going to take rights away from parents. We're going to do it all at once. Now we have to disassemble that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, the legislator on the Republican side this year was second to none in dismantling that.
Yeah.
They did a phenomenal job. The leadership team in the House of Representatives is nothing short of fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They're pros. They're well-spoken. They deliver. They made promises that they kept. Jason Osborne, Joe Sweeney, Steve Smith, the whole group, just really, really fantastic guys. And in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll hear that, right? Time to time, the guys in the right place at the right time, they were.
Yep.
And, under Sherm's leadership, they were able to dismantle most of this garbage that was put over in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So it's a good year.
I've seen a lot of the propaganda going against it, and it's easy to push back against it because it's usually just fear-mongering. I think that and I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I start feeling like a broken record when I talk about it, but COVID really exposed a lot of corruption, and parents got to see more what their kids were learning through COVID, through the remote learning. And I think that people trust the government less now than they ever did. They trust not just the government, they trust Big Pharma less, they trust the media less, they trust news, mainstream news less, because it became real, because it was on the doorstep, it was in their lives, it was the most that government ever affected their personal lives than ever before. And now what you just said is the pendulum swinging back.
100%.
It swung so fast from 2019 to 2020.
And so high.
Yep. And that's why I think right place, right time, all those guys, it was a perfect storm of legislators being able to do what needs to be done to protect parental rights and start bringing education back where it actually works for the child and not just for the government or the establishments.
Think of what's blown up in the last 5 years, trans stuff.
Yeah.
That's been its own little following and has its own, place now. Whoever would have thought in a million years that you can put a boy in sports with girls?
Right.
Who would have ever thought that that'd be right? And that's just a basic common sense, respect, acknowledgement. It just, you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we were dealing with. And like you said, to get back to your point a little bit about Big Pharma, when Big Pharma failed us and people start dying from these COVID shots, the COVID shot and the vaccine is a whole different discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Right? How do you develop something that typically takes 18 years and you push it through in 8 months? Because
you've already been developing it for years prior. The mRNA vaccines have been around since the 80s. They started developing those in the 80s. And they know that the COVID vaccine. I think Pfizer had a patent for it in like 2018, something like that. That came out not too long ago.
Whatever the case may be, I don't know that it was absolutely designed for the 19 virus, right? So who knows?
Who knows?
Right? What we do know is we had a lot of deaths from it after the fact, and we had a lot of people that took the shot or the 3 boosters on top of the 3 boosters that took all this and still got COVID.
Mm-hmm. And they get long COVID too.
And they get long COVID too, right? So it's like the trust level with Fauci, right? Every night of the week, it was like Baghdad Bob. I don't know if you remember Baghdad Bob in Iraq, right? Mm-hmm. It was the same feeling. And so now the whole American public just doesn't trust anything news media puts forward. It's garbage.
They never showed it to begin with.
But we thought we were, and Trump was in there, and we just thought that, me too. I thought that if you trust leadership until you can't trust leadership. And that was really one of the first times that leadership failed us, I think.
Yeah.
And now we're scarred, and now it's going to take generations to forget this.
Yeah.
You know, there's very few people left that lived through the early part of Great Depression.
Oh, yeah. Very
few people that can speak to it, right? But if you could catch one of them and talk to them, they would tell you horrific stories of breadlines. We have to get 100 years away from this now to clear this and have a reset and maybe gain some trust back in some type of new leadership someday.
I think we're going to have a financial crisis before that happens. And then we're going to be in the same boat again.
Yeah.
The government's going to want to print more money sooner or later in mass like it did. You know, in 2008, we thought those $1 trillion bills for quantitative easing and TARP and all that, we thought that was a big deal back then. And then COVID really topped that. So,
and then you get Jerome Powell telling us it's transitory inflation.
Who?
Transitory inflation. Remember this? Jerome Powell?
Jerome Powell.
Yeah. It's just only transitory. And who started that? Who was before him? Like there was somebody else before him that jumped on the bus there too with it.
Yeah, that was...
Anyway, irrelevant. That was the big pitch, was this is transitory. It's going to come back down soon. Hang in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we don't believe him financially. We don't believe him, medically. Good stuff.
A lot of trust being lost.
A lot of trust being lost,
And people wonder why there's more libertarians winning. More libertarian Republicans winning and less rhinos winning.
I'm going to tell you something. I may not be a Free State Project guy. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But the libertarians get stuff done.
Yeah.
They get stuff done.
Yeah.
They know how to maneuver. They know what sells.
And they're younger.
And they're honest.
Yep. And
they're brutally honest sometimes. And I think people appreciate that at the front door.
I think so.
So
going back, this all started with Right to Work. How did that fail? What wing of the Republican Party turned?
Yeah, good question. So what happened with Right to Work was it was going to be a tight numbers game going into it. We knew that right out of the gate. And what had happened was the North Country faction. There was a Coos County faction, maybe 9 or 10 Republicans up in that Colebrook, Pittsburgh world, Berlin. And if I've had a place in Pittsburgh, I don't know if you've been to Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
So if you know Pittsburgh and you know the North Country, you know that there's a lot of poverty.
Yep.
And there's not a lot of industry.
Yep.
It's a 2-lane road in and out on Route 3. So you can't attract businesses. There's just no way to attract businesses. There's people there, but you can't get goods and services in and out of there in a short amount of time. It's one reason. One of the issues with the North Country is you've got UPS, you've got the prisons, you've got the nursing home, county nursing home, and you've got a lot of other related type sheriff's departments and things like this that are, I think sheriff's department, that are union. And that union up there, believe it or not, union is where it's at. Now, logging is the number one industry up there, not union. That's not. But everything else up there, your 9 to 5s, that's a lot of that stuff is union. So a lot of these folks from the North Country, they call them the North Country faction, to add to Matt's faction, 3 factions, the North Country faction not only pushed back on this, but recruited against it. And what they did was they linked up and they joined forces with first responders who were union.
But did right to work even affect municipal unions?
Right to work didn't affect municipal unions, but it affected private unions like UPS and like I think it did affect the jails, the prison, and it did affect the county. I don't think it might not have affected the police.
No, I wouldn't think so. So the
but there was a piece of it that it affected. There was enough union component to it up in the North Country.
So nursing unions and corrections unions, those are private unions then.
I got to look into it. It's been a minute since the reason I know this is because I talked to a friend of mine who was part of that faction, a good guy. And we had a conversation about it. And I said to him, I said, Mike, why can't you if you could just get rid of the union mentality, we could get industry into the North Country. The North Country is the best place to put industry. It's got all kinds of options and resources. And he explained it to me, and I respected it. I didn't like it, but I respected it. He explained to me that, Brian, I can't go against the people that vote for me.
Yeah.
And the people that vote for me are people in those unions. So that's what it was. So you ended up having the union in the North Country pair with a lot of first responders. And for whatever the reasons were, they were able to pull enough numbers together to kill it. So I can't remember the number that it came out to, what it was, but even though we had the physical numbers in the House, we didn't have enough numbers to get it over the finish line. I think it was a pretty tight vote. Yeah. The worst part about it is that there was one rep who I think is a firefighter in Manchester. I can't remember his name. He hated it so bad that he went up and made a motion after we voted on it. And he made a motion to indefinitely postpone it. And when he indefinitely postponed it, it means we cannot bring it back this year. So it's on ice until next term.
Okay.
So it'll come back. There's no doubt about it. It's going to come back. But for now, it's on ice, and that's kind of like, it's a big slap in the face when somebody does that. At the end of the day, I'm not a union guy. I'll never be a union guy. I see what it does. I don't believe in it. I think there's a lot of things that you can get promised that they take away. One of which was what led to Group 2. The Group 2 thing. They were promised stuff. It got gutted. Some of it got gutted in 2011.
And this is the retirement.
Yeah. Some of that got lost in 2011. And Kelly had made an agreement to get that money back to them. And that's kind of what hung up HB 2, is that we couldn't come to terms with what we wanted to give them. The ask was huge, and it ended up getting reduced. So I'm not sure what the actual number was on it, but
there's a lot of fighting about that.
Yeah. So that was the biggest ticket item that held everything up.
It was a lot of money.
And it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
For taxpayers, for 1,500 guys.
Yeah. Some of the pensions that people will be collecting was like $150,000, $200,000. Is that per year?
It was per year, and I think it was capped. They ended up capping it, I feel like, at 140 or 2 or 47.
That's a lot of money.
Is what the cap was, yeah. And listen, I get it. First responders, PTSD, all the stuff that comes with it, not pleasant, right? And when you get hurt or you need help, you're not going to question any of that because you need that help now. And I have a lot of respect for, there's guys that were on our labor committee, ex-firefighters, great guys, Democrats, but great guys. We just are never going to see eye to eye on this, ever. And it's not because we don't like them or respect them. It's just because I guess we just come from two different walks.
Yeah. So did you vote for HB2?
I did vote for HB2. I did.
And did you vote for the Group 2 pensions?
I did.
You did?
I did. It was, I think that was 282 on that, and you had to get through one to get to the other.
Yeah.
That was how it laid out. So politics is tricky, and you can be standoffish, or you can go along to get along. The one thing I would tell anybody who's getting into politics is try to look at the big picture and what's going to hurt people if you don't make the right decisions.
Right.
Try to really step back and look at the big picture. Because if you get hung up, and a lot of guys did, in H-2B, the trailer bill, there was all kinds of crap stuffed into that, right? people would look at one item and be like, no, there's no way I'm going to vote for that. And they would let that hang up the whole decision. And it wasn't the end of the world. The sky wasn't going to fall. Being short-sighted can be damning, especially if you're going to try to run again. Nothing's ever perfect, right? Look at Trump with the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah.
What does he say to all the senators? If any one of you decide that you're going to vote against this, I'll primary you.
Yeah.
And then somebody bailed out. I forgot who it was. Somebody didn't vote for it.
I think it was Rand Paul.
Was it Rand Paul?
He didn't vote for it.
Okay, there was another guy that said he wasn't going to vote for it and then retired, or said he was going to retire, or not run again, or whatever it was. So this is what you're forced into.
Yeah. Because he knows he's just going to.
You're going to get primaried, right?
Yeah. Kentucky loves Rand Paul, though, so I don't think he's going to.
You got Massey and Kentucky Massey and Rand Paul out of Kentucky.
Yeah, but then you have who's the other guy there? He's the Warhawk Rhino there.
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's Kentucky, isn't he?
If he's not Kentucky, he's close to it.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. No,
I think
McConnell.
I think Lindsey Graham is South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Mitch McConnell. He was.
Yeah.
I don't think he's running again. Or is he even in there now?
You got to clean some of these people out.
They're so old. They're so old. That's one thing that I think the Republican Party needs to really look around at, is that you need to start getting young blood in. And you need to get not just people running for office, but people voting for Republicans that are younger. And that means that you need to address the issues that affect young people the most. Like, they can't own homes. They can't start families. And inflation's just crushing them.
Yeah.
So what are some things that the Republican Party could do for younger people?
Well, first of all, we need to get a CD1 candidate that's worth their salt. Okay, we've got to reclaim some of these Fed seats.
Yeah.
0-4 is not a good look.
Yeah.
So we got a couple candidates in the mix now. I think we have Chris Bright, and you have Melissa Bailey, who I know, very nice girl, very well spoken, very highly educated, good player, resourceful. There's talk of others getting in the mix. This is a primary with an open seat, so you're going to see. My guess is you're going to see 7-8 people jump into this. How could you not? Right? They'll time it and it'll be spread out over months, but you're going to see that. Now, is there anybody in the mix that can pull it off? I don't know. You need tons of money.
Chris Bright ran last time.
And came in like 5th, right? Not that he's a bad guy, but at the end of the day, I don't know. You got to have money, like tons and tons of money, right? I spent $40,000 on a House rep seat in Bedford.
Wow.
$40K, right? I was bound and determined that there was no way that was going to become a Democratic seat. And I was going to at least stop one of them.
And where did you get all those donations from? Are those small donations? Are those donors?
1/3 of it was probably donors and small donations, and 2/3 of it was self-funding.
Really?
So you've got to be able to self-fund at these levels, because donations and the talk of campaign fundraising and all that stuff, that's all well and good. But if you can't self-fund, I would not recommend this to anybody.
Yeah.
You've just got to be able to do it. I don't know. To answer your question, we've got to win some federal seats. We've got to get some smart people in there. And I mean, this is going to boil down to going head to head, most likely with Shaheen. And she is probably more powerful than her mom in terms of raising money. I mean, I've seen some of Kevin Landrigan's articles. He's kicked out that she raised $560,000 in half the amount of time that Pappas did.
Really?
Somehow. And went comparatively when in his first term when he ran. So she's a fundraising machine.
So she's already raised how?
Already raised that, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Because she's only announced, a month ago?
Yeah. Yep. So she's getting tons of money. And I look at who we have.
These are the same people that say we got to get big money out of politics. It's always Democrats that say that. And then they're saying that the Senate seat's going to be something like, you need like $200 million. That's insane.
These are big numbers, man.
For a $1.5 million population.
The average cost of a House rep seat, just to keep it organic here and local, the average cost of a House rep seat, if you average it out from top to bottom, right, people will tell you that it's $5,000.
That's what I've heard.
It's not. When other people go in all in, including like AFP and other people that back you, it's probably closer to 20 or 30.
AFP?
Yeah.
What is that?
Americans for Prosperity.
Okay.
So if they get on board with you, and they like you because you align with their politics, then they may help you. And they kick in through not direct cash, but they'll kick in with third-party mailers.
And what was that number you said again?
So my guess is probably right around $25,000. Mine's tougher. Bedford's tougher. It's creeping. It's oozing blue. It's starting to look a little purple, like the room here.
Now, the opponent that you ran against, were there several opponents?
So we ran 8 Republicans for 7 seats. My goal was not to knock anybody out on purpose. My goal was just to capture a seat and make sure that, and then when we got into the general, I wanted to make sure that we had no Democrats grabbing my seat.
And how much were they spending?
So they had a lot of out-of-state money, the Democrats did. And there was a lot I remember the night before the election, 2 or 3 people came from out of state and they littered the town with signs of, Democrats from one end to the other, where it took like weeks to clean up this mess.
Wow.
Bedford they thought they were going to grab some seats out of Bedford, and they probably think they're going to do it again here in 26. I can tell you like a Senate race, Senate 9 happens to be my district. The Senate race, if there was to be a primary, is probably going to land, or in general, a primary and a general, the combination of both. That's probably a $250,000 race, but it's not that in Loudoun.
How much do senators get paid in New Hampshire?
So it's $100.
It's still $100
yeah.
for senators.
Yeah. The problem is if you're not the right senator, you can do more damage than good. And you can, you don't want to obstruct things either. You got to go along to get along sometimes.
It's a lot of money for a $100 seat.
It's a lot of money for a $100 seat. You got to be a pretty dedicated guy. And not that I'm considering doing any of this, but, just generally speaking here, I did not serve this country in a military capacity. The least I can do now, being 52 and having arthritis in my back, which I just found out about yesterday. It felt like it. The least I can do is help on a civic front, and do my civic duty and help constituents and people that don't have a voice and bring some business element to things and just try to keep things on the straight and narrow. Mm-hmm. If I can help my fellow taxpayer, then I've served my country. I've served my state. Mm-hmm. And I see it like that. And I hope a lot of people see it like that.
Yeah.
You don't always have to serve in the military to be a patriot. I'm not taking anything away from the military. I'm all about it. My dad was too.
Yeah.
I just think there's multiple ways to be that patriot.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Tom Mannion about it a couple episodes back because he said he wouldn't want to he'd rather just be zero. He said that they should just pay state rep zero so they don't have to pay to process payroll.
I have
cost the state some money.
I have absolutely no problem with that. I would align with that. Furthermore, I would almost consider passing legislation where you have everybody gives up their 100 to a cause annually. And the cause could be a rotating cause. It could be bipartisan. It could be anything, charity, tunnels to towers, whatever you want it to be. And it could rotate through. And, you got 400 reps, $100 a year. Do that for two terms or a 2-year term. It's a decent amount of money. Maybe you compound it, put it in some investments. And now the people that used to get paid are actually funding causes. And it's got a good look to it, even from a bipartisan perspective. So I would be with Tom 100% on that.
I think we need a database that shows where all the money that's coming from outside the state is going.
I would say good luck doing that.
Yeah.
And I would say, I can tell you this, the first thing we need to do to clean up, and this isn't in my wheelhouse, but the first thing, and Scanlon does a decent job with it, the first thing we got to do is we've got to tighten up campaign finance reports because they're a mess and the accountability is weak. And if you file something 3 days late, there's no problem with it. And that's not fair. I make sure all my stuff's done on the date it's supposed to be in. I go in, I look at when the report dates are due, I set a time thing in my calendar, and it gets done. I talk to other people, they don't even know what it is. You know what I mean? And these are all things that come back to bite you when you run for higher office.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it doesn't matter at the time, but you want to run for higher office or you want to be square with your constituents and show where that money came. Or in cases of if you're against auto repeal and you have NHADA in your back pocket and they're loading you up with cash, I mean, wouldn't your constituents like to see that? And maybe that's where your vote came from. So I don't know. I think, and it's a pretty tricky thing to navigate, by the way. It's not really easy to navigate that platform. So that needs work.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I was thinking more of on a party scale. So that you could show, let's say you're running for office, right? You have a candidate that you're running against, they're raising $40,000, you're raising $40,000. You can show that you're self-financing 2/3 of your own.
Yep.
And then you can show, here's all the people that are paying all my small donations, my donors. They're from this town, this town, this town, and the majority of them are from the area that I'm representing. Where if your opponent, you can show, all right, they're getting a lot of their money from New York, from Massachusetts, from California. Is this the person that you really want to be voting for?
Yeah.
That's my idea. And I think that's what I mean for a database as far as where money's coming from and where it's going.
Yeah, I don't know if there are websites now that what is it, followthemoney.com and these type of websites that show some of that stuff. But you also got to be savvy. You got to know where to look.
Yeah.
So as a constituent, that's all well and good if you had that stuff. Yeah. And you should have it. We should be able to see it.
We'd need volunteers.
You need volunteers, and you need to be able to get the message out to the average voter that, look, if you want to know where Bob's from, here's the button you click.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, politics is, I don't want to ever call it a game because it's not a game. But it's definitely, it's almost like a college degree in the making, especially in the early years, because there's like 101, 201, 301. It's different levels that you have to learn. And to be an effective legislator, you're not going to do it in your first year. You have to get reelected for multiple, like Osborne's been there for 10 years. Or whatever he's been there for. Sherman's been there for 30. And likewise with Steve and these other guys. They know their way around the room. So there's content, the bills, and then there's procedure. If you knew one and didn't know the other, it doesn't matter. You got to have them both working. All pistons got to be firing to be able to pull stuff off. So,
yeah. So what do you think the hardest vote that you've had so far? So
I'll tell you what. Some of the hardest votes that I've taken are housing. Okay. Because
this was big.
Housing was a doozy, right? And I happen to be at ground zero for housing. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Bedford on the top is probably one of the top 10 most affluent towns to live in. With that comes the expectation that you're not going to ruin it as an elected official, right? So there's a lot of faith and trust that goes in electing us that we're not going to go to Concord and turn Concord into the tree streets of Manchester, right? Not that there's anything wrong with the tree streets of Manchester, but they don't want that look, okay, or inner city look. They don't want it. I don't want it for Bedford. It's good where it is, right? I came from Nashua. I came from those streets. What I would say is 631, House Bill 631, was a bill that allowed residential to go into commercial areas.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. I don't. I like the Portsmouth feel. You been to Tuscan Village?
No.
If you haven't, you need to go. Tuscan Village in Salem is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a little subculture of restaurants, shops, apartments, condos, all in this little like city block.
Yeah.
And it's clean and neat and gorgeous. And that's a neat feel for what I could envision Bedford having in what's called Main and Market, which is down off South River Road, right off the highway. There's an opportunity to have this, and they're working on that now. I have no problem with residential going into commercial, i.e. bakery on the bottom floor, 4 apartments above it. Old school.
Yeah, it is.
Right? I don't have a problem with that. People in Bedford did. They're not interested in that. Not everybody. Some people in Bedford, right? The loudest I heard from on it. I would say housing. Housing was tough this year. And housing was tough, not just this year because of the concept itself, but how many bills came with it.
There were a lot. There were 40.
There was a metric ton of bills, and it was a conveyor belt. Some stuff went off on consent, on the consent calendar that we had no control over other than to try to pull it off, but you need 10 people to pull it off. You had a bipartisan housing committee. Joe Alexander and Brian Cole chaired that. Two well-respected guys. And it was bipartisan all the way through. So stuff was coming out of there 16-0, 18-0, whatever it was. So there was really no threat of a bad feeling on these bills. Yeah. So they go to consent. So we left most of them on consent. A few got pulled off that maybe were considered the real bad ones.
Now, can you explain what going on consent is?
Yeah, so the consent there's two different calendars, right? So there's a regular calendar and there's a consent calendar.
Okay.
And so bills that are uncontested and they're in committee, and say you have a Republican Democrat committee, 10 and 10. Bill comes through, let's just say not that it was, but just say 631 goes through and it ends up going on consent. What that means is Democrats all in on it, the Republicans all in on it, and then when they close out the hearing, or on the executive committee when they do the executive on it, the executive session on it, they'll say, do we have a problem putting this on the consent calendar? And then maybe the ranking member on the other side will say, no problem here. So it then goes on the consent calendar. So the first item that gets voted on when you sit down in session on Thursday mornings is typically the consent calendar. So Sherm will reel through, okay, consent calendar's up. He won't go through all the bills that are on it, but he'll tell you, is everybody in favor of the consent calendar? Now, there could be, over that period of time, there could be 40 bills or more that from different committees that landed on the consent calendar. Now, you can see this ahead of time. It's on, right. It's in your your docs, and you can see what's on there. And if you really have a hard time with something that's on there, you can go to the clerk and you can say, hey, I want to pull that off of consent. I want to hear that on the floor.
Okay.
But you need 10 people to do it. And not everybody's got 10 friends.
You'd think you would with 400 and something people in there.
You think you would, but automatically half of them were already Democrats, so this goes 200.
Yeah. And
now you're down to 200, and you get the factions. So it's can be tricky, right?
Yeah.
So that's consent. So consent calendar, he'll say, okay, all in favor of consent, or whatever he says, and gavels it. Now you just voted yes. It's always a voice vote. Not always, 99% of the time, voice vote. So you just voted for consent.
Yep.
Now, the Democrats did too, and the Republicans. So that's the consent calendar.
Okay.
The regular calendar is when a bill doesn't go through, on both sides, 18-0. Maybe it's 9-9. And then that has to come out. That goes on the floor on the regular calendar. Then there could be like floor amendments. There could be other stuff that goes with it. That's a little bit different.
Okay.
That's when you have a kind of like a full hearing.
So a lot of these housing bills were going through with
Boy, I tell you, I bet you if there was 100 housing bills, I bet you 60 or 70 went on consent.
Wow.
Yeah. And out of that 60 or 70 that went on consent, 6, 7 got pulled.
So there wasn't a big concern that these weren't going to pass.
There wasn't a concern. You got to remember something too. Bedford and a few other small towns like Bedford are more problematic than, say, Wakefield.
Yeah.
And voting for one of these bills, the wrong bill in Bedford, is political suicide. It just is. You got to be mindful of that, and we were, as much as I had to really think about what I was doing before I would push the green or red button, because one of the hardest things in politics is to remember when it gets to be game time and you have to push the red or green button to make that decision. This is not your decision. This is your constituents' decision.
Correct.
So no matter what experiences I've had with planning boards that may have been negative in the past, I had to weigh that out and use guidance on that and weigh that out with what my constituents would think.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be very, very careful with that. And I feel like I turned out a good product in terms of my voting record.
Well, that's also why they elect you, is to make that decision.
They do elect you to make those hard decisions, and you have to be prepared to take flack the next day,
Yeah.
which we did and which we do in the papers, articles.
You're going to get that on every vote you make, though, right?
You're probably going to, I got to tell you, if we did, there was 1,200 bills that we looked at, 50, 40 I heard from that were really contentious.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them, nobody cared about. Not that they didn't care, but it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, how many of those housing bills actually passed? Like the commercial one didn't pass, right?
So, as far as the housing bills that passed, all the bills that went on consent. See, there's two pieces of this too. So, Kelly still hasn't signed all the bills. As a matter of fact, she just vetoed something I saw. I'm not sure what it was. It wasn't a housing bill, but she vetoed something yesterday. I just caught it. I saw the veto and I saw a little blurb on it. It might have been on X. So that even though they've gotten passed, she still has to sign them.
Correct.
Right? And she's not done that yet on all of them. So I would say if they tried to push 140 bills through on the housing, they probably get half. And not all of them are damning. A lot of them were just clean up in aisle 5. Maybe like an additional parking space here or whatever.
Yeah, there was one that reduced parking spaces.
That one, right? So that one, I voted for that. I don't think you need to have 3 parking spaces for every condo.
Mm-hmm.
You can have 1. You know what I mean? The older you get to be a senior citizen, you're 65, 70. How many people do you know that go down to 1 car?
Right.
Enough said. I tried to lobby that and say that. Some people listened, some people didn't. Yeah, housing was a tricky duck this year. I'm hoping that we've got this out of our system, and that let's focus on some other stuff. We all need to. The good news is coming up the window in September that we file bills. It's a pretty narrow window. It's like a week or 10 days.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you. So from January until now, so what does the year look like as far as the legislative sessions go? Do you have sessions from January until a certain time, and then you introduce more bills in September?
Yeah. So what's going to happen is the way that it's going to work from here on out is in September we have an opportunity to file more bills, and the window's very short.
But will you still be voting every Thursday until then?
No, we're out.
You're out.
We're out. Okay. We're out for now. So we don't reconvene until I think after the first of the year. And I feel like that comes back into play right around January 6th.
So you start introducing them again in September. Now, do they have committees?
So what will happen is you'll get the bills into OLS, Office of Legislative Services. You'll get the bills that you want into their office. They start building them, researching them, making sure that the language is right and they're legal and everything else. That process takes a bit. So OLS will work on that process from September till January. Once we get into January, we'll break into committees again. And we'll start, like my committee's like one day a week. So I actually 2 days a week. I got 1 day for committee and 1 day on Thursdays for session.
That's not too bad.
That's for me, it was great. And with the labor committee, we only had like 40 bills. So I was out early. I was done in March. I had friends, including Kristen Noble. She was like there till June. And there was no end in sight. It was like 150 bills, and it was one after another, just this big conveyor belt of bills, and I felt bad for her. I only had 2 days a week. That was good for me. And that'll start again in January, probably around January 6th. And then we'll start hearing all these bills that were filed. And also, not only will we hear the new bills that were filed in January, in September, we'll hear the bills that were retained.
Okay.
So in committee this year, if we couldn't come to an agreement on a bill, we would just retain it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how that process works.
Okay.
So we get a second crack at it, so to speak, in the second year.
So in the second year, would this time next year just be it for your service?
Yeah. So I bet you middle of June next year,
and then it's
almost a year from now.
And that's election season.
And then I'm done.
Yeah.
And then it's primary season.
Yeah.
So we'll primaries.
It's election season now.
It's almost election season 24/7.
It is now, yeah.
If you want to raise money, raise money. Yeah. So a year from now will be the end of my first term.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I got to make a decision on what my plans are.
And So are you liking it, doing it, or do you find it?
The most cliche comment you're going to get from anybody who sits in this chair is, "I think I can make a difference."
Yeah.
And I can tell you that after going through what I went through this year, I actually know I can make a difference.
Good.
And I'll tell you why. We've had a lot of votes, including like HB2 and stuff like this, that were one vote.
Yep.
You don't show up, or you're in the bathroom and you miss it, you with a difference, man. You're the one who makes or breaks that deal.
Yeah.
So you can make a difference, and you can make a difference in committee, and you can ask questions, and you can influence, and you can bring knowledge to the table, and you can work the corners like they do in hockey. You know what I mean? And being a legislator, the longer I'm all for term limits, but I also believe you need education first before you can be productive.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact.
Now, are you for term limits just so that people aren't in there for 30 years and getting rich off of legislating?
I've never looked at politics as a paying job.
Mm.
I've always looked at it as an opportunity to give back.
Mm.
And whether it's giving back with time or knowledge or donations to help others get elected, that's always how I've looked at it. I've never looked at it as I need this salary or this health care to sustain me. I don't see it like that. Some people do.
Mm.
And from a term limit perspective, how do I feel about it? I just don't want to see the same dude in there. Look at Lindsey Graham. Look at Chuck Schumer. Look at Pelosi. There's nobody who wants to see that for that long a period of time.
What about Ron Paul?
Then you have good ones, right? You got good guys. But what you do for one, you got to do for all.
Mm.
And it's hard to, and we have great guys, by the way. We have a lot of great chairs and a lot of great reps on our side. And really good and really smart. And it takes years to figure out the system.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you got to have fresh eyes every once in a while. And I'll equate it to this. I've had employees that I thought were the second coming,
mm-hmm.
but they had their quirks.
Mm-hmm.
And they were tricky, and they were needy and whatever. And they may have moved on. And then I get somebody who comes in to replace them, and that person is a breath of fresh air. And I feel better about me and myself and our team than I ever have. But I didn't want to give that guy up, the first guy. And that's kind of how I feel about this. I believe there's life after tenure.
I don't think term limits will work. I think it'll be a revolving door of people just being paid by special interests.
Here's the problem with term limits. And I'll give you an example right in Bedford, where I'm from. They can't find people to run.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats can't find people to run.
That's a good point, yeah.
Neither side can find people to run, right? It's not just our problem. It's everybody's problem. Who in their right mind would want to do this?
Right.
Right? Especially at 52, especially in your 50s, in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, your prime time years for making money. Who would want to give up 5 minutes of that time to go listen to it in Concord?
Right.
Right?
For practically nothing.
For practically nothing, maybe make the wrong vote and get crucified the whole next week in the newspaper for it. Who wants that? You got to be a pretty dedicated civil servant.
Yeah.
And willing to have thick skin. I don't know. The one thing I can say that I don't brag about myself ever. I don't use the word I. I try to stay out of that world as much as I can. The only benefit that I have in politics that I've been gifted through owning businesses is wicked thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
You could say anything in the world to me. Anybody can. And I can calmly respond to it.
Yeah.
It's not paper thin. And you need that in politics.
Yeah. Well,
because you're going to get hit with stuff.
You learn in business that your most valuable person in that business is your customer. And they're going to try and get as much as they can for as little as possible.
Yep.
And you're going to be able to deal with that without getting offended. And that probably does. We should see the government run more like a business where you balance in the books at least. We don't see that at all. How much growth do we need with government's another question too. So as far as what you bring to the table with your experience in the private sector, let's say you were president of the United States, right? Or not just the state rep in New Hampshire where you're one voice out of 400, but you had, or if you were a state senator, not a state senator, well, state senator, yeah, because there's only 16 of those.
24.
Like, what would you want to implement as far as how the government runs? If you could just change it on your own tomorrow, like, what would you change so that the government runs more efficiently than it does now? Like, what could be done?
Can we start from zero?
Yeah.
Okay, you can't go into debt. No matter what.
Yep.
You run that checkbook like you run your own.
Yep.
99.9% of your problems just got solved.
Yep.
That's it.
Do you think that the budget that they just passed, the one that you just voted for, do you think that does that?
You're talking HB 1 and 2?
Yeah.
So what I can tell you is there was a megaton of cuts made in that budget, right? A lot of stuff came out of DHHS, corrections. Lots of stuff was cut out of that. Are you asking me, should I have held out for more? Not that you did, but if you wanted to ask me, I would tell you no. I would tell you, you know, I got to tell you, Jason Osborne said it this way, and I believe it. Everybody on both sides of the aisle and through both chambers puts stuff in the cart.
Mm-hmm.
And some people take stuff out of the cart. You got to be careful you don't take the peanut butter out of the cart if you plan on making peanut butter and jelly that night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Don't take other people's stuff out of the cart. Work with them.
Yeah.
Let them leave some in the cart, and you leave some, and you each take some away. Negotiation is a huge part of budget building. And like I said, we are very talented on the House side with the likes of Ken Weiler and Dan McGuire. These are two incredibly talented guys that have been around for a very long time, and they know how the sausage is made. Not to mention that they can look at a budget just by picking up a piece of paper and looking at the 400 sheet in line item 6 and be like, no, that needs to be changed. Just smart guys, crazy smart guys. I would vote for that budget again. I think we did the best that we could. The one thing that's tricky in any budget is when somebody makes a promise to somebody for something and you let that hang up the budget. That's tough.
Mm.
You know, I have a very good relationship with Kelly, and she made a promise to Group 2 at 1,500 people to bring back those salaries or to bring back those bennies. I don't know what the exact promise was, and I don't know if it was an option to bring that back over a couple years or if it needed to be all done in the first year. I don't know what she promised them. But evidently something was promised that hung that budget up for a little while.
Mm.
You know, we ended up getting there. I don't believe they got the full boat, but they got a good piece of it.
Well, in theory, it should be a balanced budget, but it's based off of projections from.
It's based off of income projections, right? So we got rid of profits and profits and dividends, interest and dividends tax. We got rid of that one. We got to be careful. You know, BET, BPT, meals and rooms. We got to keep some. You got to have some money coming in. You can't strip everything, right?
Right.
Communications tax was on the chopping block. That got retained, I think, in commerce. That's something that could probably go away.
Now, what is that?
Communications is cell phone. It's a little number on the bottom of your cell phone bill. You're going to pay $7 extra.
Yeah.
So, and that could be on any device or whatever. So there's a communication or even cable, right? There could be a communications tax.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of needs to go. That's a libertarian thing.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to go. I don't know. Building budgets are tough. I was not on commerce. I wasn't part of Ways and Means. I would have liked to have been. I mean, I built our budget at the Snowmobile Association, which is, $1 million budget. Not $15 billion, but, enough to know your way around the room, what matters, what doesn't.
Yeah.
Tricky. It's tricky stuff. And you got to make sure that you can't, I'm not a social services guy. I'm not a social welfare guy. But there are people that need that service.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? There are vulnerable people that need to have help.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't be completely blind to that.
And where do you think we should draw the line on that aspect?
So I am a huge believer in if you can work, get off the couch and get to work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't collect. Don't hide behind false Social Security disability claims. Get to work.
Mm-hmm.
I plan on working with the Labor Commission this year, and unemployment. Deputy Commissioner Rich Lavers this year. I plan on working with them on a couple things. One of which is trying to find a way to initiate a little bit more oversight into false claims. So if you're claiming that it's a federal thing with social, but if you're claiming that you're hurt, and you are hurt, that's one thing. If you're not and you're collecting, you're doing a huge disservice to everybody that pays into this.
So somebody that's hurt, don't they have to go to a doctor now to receive benefits to show that they're hurt?
Well, they do initially.
Okay.
They do initially, but if it turns out you go on disability, Social Security disability component of Social Security, I'm sure you got to check in once in a while, but I don't think it's every day of the week.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think those gaps are too far in between. I think there needs to be more oversight with that. And that would help our labor force if we could get people back into work. People that are questionable, that don't want to work. And them. I know them. We all know them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that would that be with being on the labor committee? That's something you can tackle.
It's something I can. Well, first of all, I need to do research on it, and then if I felt like it needed legislation, we could push legislation. Mm-hmm. If I felt like I needed to have a lunch conversation with somebody, I would do that. And I would say that over the course of the last year, my relationships with a lot of these deputy commissioners and commissioners is strengthened. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I can go have lunch with these guys and tell them, hey, look, let's work on this together. Mm-hmm. And listen, legislation can be used for a whole host of things. And if it gets to the point where you're not making any headway with a department, you can always push legislation and you can jam it if you have to. Not saying it's going to go through, but if you're a strong enough salesman, you can get it to go through, right?
Right. So you said your biggest motivation to run was because you've seen this blue
slow
creep of blueness coming up north.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that you could do as a state legislator that you could get passed through, that you want to work on that's most passionate to you, what would that one thing be?
We've got to keep our taxes low in this state because it attracts people, it attracts businesses, right? 96% of the businesses in New Hampshire are small businesses, and that is the heartbeat, right? Our unemployment is at 3.1%, used to be in the twos. We got to there's two things that need to happen mechanically. We have to keep unemployment low, and we have to keep taxes low.
What's causing it to creep up?
So what's causing unemployment to creep up could be a lot of things. There's probably layoffs at higher levels, right? Like there's some tech companies that may have laid off. 6 months ago, I heard one after another for a while. With inflation, maybe people are doing less projects. So there might be a little bit less construction. Building materials are way more, might be a little bit more, layoffs there. So I think, you're going to see a little bit more layoffs, and I think you're going to see a few more people collecting unemployment because there may not be the jobs. Here, let me clarify this. There may not be the jobs that person's looking for. This is a big discussion I had with Rich Lavers too, is, look, you get laid off, you got to go on unemployment. There's 10 jobs, but none of them are yours. This is where I have a different opinion than most. Pick something that maybe you're not 100% in tune with, but get off of unemployment. Mm-hmm. That was one thing. Another thing I want to work on with Deputy Commissioner Lavers is in 2013, the Unemployment Office allowed ACH payments to be made to those who are collecting unemployment. So effectively, you can just go there once, go through the training, state your case, get moved into the process. And you still have to be accountable, weekly or biweekly or whatever they have. You have to be accountable for what you're doing, and you have to report into them. But you can get a check directly shipped into your bank account, ACH. But that wasn't like that pre-2013. If we took that away and went back to paper check, show up in person,
Mm-hmm.
we cannot make unemployment convenient.
Yeah.
Okay? We can't. I'll take a lot of heat for that one, and I'm fine with it. Businesses are paying that money, not the employer, not the employee. The employer pays for unemployment. Okay? Not the employee. I'm paying for it.
So can you explain to people how that works? Because I've had to pay into unemployment because I was a business owner, and I had people that would claim unemployment a year after they worked for me, or I would get a notice that somebody that worked for me a year prior was claiming unemployment. But
Common.
yeah, so I guess what happens is they go to the unemployment department, they go to the most recent employer, and if that employer doesn't have any money to go towards it, they go to the next one.
So I don't know that it works just like that, but the first part of that was right.
Yeah.
So they basically take a look back at who the last employer was.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, who'd you work for last? Well, I worked for Craig last. When did you work for him? Well, it was 6 years ago. There's a statute on this. There's a limitation on this.
This was a person that worked for me for maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And when I called the unemployment department, they said, yeah, there's no money in this person's account, and they were already denied anyways.
Correct. Right. So basically what you do is on every paycheck that comes through, you pay a little bit out into everybody's purse.
The employees pay into that a little bit as well.
I don't think they do.
You have unemployment taken out of your check.
Unemployment?
I believe so.
Okay, well, we'd have to look at that.
Yeah.
I know employers pay the most part, the most piece of that. At least I know we do.
Yeah.
And the more you pay into this, and the more you build your kitty, if you will, then the more you build the kitty up, the less rate you have to pay. Like a new business would start off like at a 2% rate, or 3% rate. I think we're down into like the 0 percentages now. So it's not anything huge, right? But at the end of the day, the employer pays for at least the lion's share of this piece of this, right? So we should have some say in how this goes.
Right.
And I just don't believe that ACH checks should be delivered to your account.
And New Hampshire is actually fairly good to employers as far as unemployment goes. In other states, if you fire somebody, sometimes you have to go and prove that you fired them for a good reason.
Not New Hampshire.
Not New Hampshire, because we're an at-will state.
Yep. Which is nice, right? That's one of the benefits that we have here.
Why don't we just make it so that unemployment, you get rid of all that stuff, and it's just an account that you pay into out of your paycheck every week, and if you lose your job, then what's in that account is yours because it's already your money that you paid into to begin with. Why don't we just simplify it like that?
I mean, on the employee side,
yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Put that into your 401k, put that into your simple, do whatever you want to do with that. Right. On the employer side, this is tricky because there are circumstances where you want to make sure that your employees are taken care of.
Right.
Okay. But I also believe that there's a lot of fraud in this, and there's a lot of abuse in this, and there's a lot of non-motivated people in this, right? So my feeling is, and again, I'll take heat for this. I think we should go back to pre-2013.
Right.
And make the people show up and get their check.
Yeah.
Because if I make you do that, you're going to be a lot less interested in driving to Concord.
And I think that's a good start. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. But is it too big of a system? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right.
All this stuff's going to take a long time to overhaul. I've had great conversations with the unemployment department about this. No commitments, but open conversation. And look, if we want to get the unemployment number back down,
that'll help.
It's going to help. You look at anything else, right? Social media, everything else. People don't want to talk to people. People just they don't want to go talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So they don't want to get in their car, drive to Concord, get their check. And I think there's 12 offices, 10 or 12 offices, one in each county for unemployment security. So it's not like you got to drive from here to California to get the thing. You just drive within your county, wherever it is, and you get your check. You report in like you should,
Yeah.
After all, that's not all your money. that's being doled out,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we should have more say over that money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the max you can collect anyway is $427. It's not motivating enough, right? I'm not looking, to be very clear, I'm not looking to hurt anybody.
Right.
I'm looking to tighten up the system and make it so that there's more accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I don't want you to just show up the first day and then for the next 24 weeks, you don't have to say anything. You just get that check dropped in your account.
Yeah.
You got to be accountable for that. That's not your money.
Yeah. Automation, I think, has really made it so that what you're saying is correct, that the people don't want to talk to people. People don't want to have any confrontation with that type of a scenario. Drifting away from unemployment, but if you go over to taxes, income tax, for instance, it wasn't that long ago that people used to have to actually pay their own taxes. You didn't have it taken out of your paycheck automatically every single week. So if we wanted to get people more open to spending, government spending, right? Let's segue over to that. Have people have to pay their taxes every quarter instead of having a W-2 where you're having your taxes taken out automatically and then you get your refund at the end of the year. Because now that we have direct deposit, pretty much what you're talking about with ACH.
Yep.
People don't know how much they're paying anymore. They just know what their net is. They see what's in their bank account. They don't see the gross. People should look at that gross and say, well, what about that number?
That is a number that hides.
Yeah.
That gross number hides, right? Because even though we give our employees a paper stub,
you still do?
Yeah, we still do. They all get ACH, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or direct deposit, but they all get it. Every week by the time clock we put the stubs, in envelopes for them. And do you know what I look on Monday in the trash can? What's in the trash? And the envelope's not even opened.
Oh,
they're all floating around in the trash can.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they don't care. They just want to see the net and move on.
That's sad.
And they don't realize that they just got $800 pulled out of their paycheck.
Yeah.
Or something, right?
Yeah.
And that they're paying into the government. IRS is capturing all this money, making tons of interest on it, only to give you a portion of it back at the end of the year.
But if you made everybody write that check out quarterly,
it would hurt a lot more, and you'd have a lot more opinions
exactly
on how it should be spent, right? Should we be funding these wars in Ukraine, and should we be doing this and all these other things with your tax dollars?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, people be a little more enlightened about their political views, because I think people are very passive about it now. But that's part of why I started doing this. I wanted people to have some sort of access to state representatives, the things that you guys are doing, the things that you guys think, how you think, why you think the way that you do, and just give people an opportunity to hear firsthand from you guys and girls. But
we live in a great state. We do, and we live in this. What do we have? The third largest legislature in the world.
Yeah,
right out of Concord. Right, that's pretty unique.
Yeah.
There's days that you have good accomplishments, and there's days that are draining.
There's no other state in New England I'd want to live in. I don't know if there's any other state in the country I'd want to live in. When I look at other states and I look at the freedoms that we have, there's a reason the Free State Project exists.
Yeah. One thing I would tell you briefly here about the factions within the Republican Party. The Democratic Party doesn't seem to have these factions.
No.
They're pretty united in what they do. They usually travel in lockstep. They have a couple leaders up front to tell them how to vote, and they don't deviate. It is what it is, right?
Would you want to be a part of that?
No, not in a million years.
Right.
And what I can tell you is I think that there's a lot of factions within the Republican Party because, first of all, there's probably a lot of type A personalities, okay? And everybody, just generally speaking, and even in a friendly manner, maybe thinks they can do it better than the next guy, right? So these factions develop. And then you have how people are brought up in the household. Maybe they're brought up differently, whether it's homeschool or war anarchy or whatever it is. And so that travels through. But I can tell you the point here is the multiple factions within the Republican Party are not a horrible thing.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's packed with incredibly intelligent people that give you another perspective on something that you didn't see. Mm-hmm. And I think that's valuable. It doesn't always work out on game day with votes. And that's a leadership thing that they got to whip. But at the end of the day, I think it's great to have a lot of different sets of eyes on projects.
Yeah. I think that the one area where unity would be effective in the Republican Party, though, is where Republicans could have they need to come together to show people that liberty and freedom and how important it is. And if you have a party that's complete opposite, Democrats say they're all about pro-choice, but it's only when it comes to abortion.
Yeah.
Every other part of it, like, they don't want you to know what public schools are teaching your kids.
Yep.
They don't want you to be able to have a choice of where your kid goes to school with your own tax dollars.
Yeah, it's a communist party.
Absolutely.
It is. It just is. And they hide it well. And I don't know.
And
two different worlds.
Maybe it wasn't always like that, but like when Mike Belcher talks about the demos.
Yep.
That's where we got unions from. It was people organizing against employers because of unfair working conditions, and that served a purpose at one point.
Yep.
But
we're beyond it.
We're beyond that, and at this point, it's hurting industry.
Yep. Even
in municipal unions, the teachers' union is the reason why education is so expensive.
It is. It is. And the saddest part about that whole dynamic is that I don't believe the teachers are getting the money.
They're not.
I believe everybody around them is.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was a teacher, I'd be livid.
Yeah.
You know, you're watching to the left and to the right, you make huge amounts of money, and here you are stuck at $50K.
Yeah.
That's not good for anybody.
No.
And it's not motivating.
No.
But our Republican Party is strong. We delivered this year. Promises made, promises kept. We've got a great leadership team. I've got great fellow reps. I look forward to the second year and probably a few years after it.
Nice.
This is not a career for me. I need to come in, make an impact, repeal some stuff that's crazy, add some stuff that we need, and call it a day.
So the future in New Hampshire looks bright in your eyes?
I think it really does. I think we're going to struggle here in the midterms because it's a non-presidential.
Yeah.
And we're going to struggle. It depends on what else we have, what else happens with Trump. At the end of the day, we've got to be able to recruit. And the only way we can recruit is if you're winning.
Yeah.
And we won. And we won big this year on a whole host of fronts. You know, so hopefully we can leverage that and get that message out to candidates within our communities. You know, and then, you know, I've seen a lot of good come out of entities like AFP. You know, they're promoting this. They've got good meetings. You know, they're having dinners and they're trying to. It's a good recruiting thing that they do. You know, NHLA does the same stuff.
Yeah. So
these little, you know, side shows, if you will, with all these different opportunities with AFP and NHLA and Liberty Y'all and all these other groups, they're very good, productive, helpful, at least in my opinion, entities to the Republican Party.
Do you think that connecting with the working class, the people that probably aren't going to show up for the midterms, and recruiting those people should be our primary goal?
Yeah, well, to answer your question, to back up a little bit, we need to be out there now.
Yeah.
Recruiting, right?
Yeah.
And if we don't start recruiting now, we're going to be in deep crap. We got to move forward. We got to get a big bullpen built now. I do feel we're going to take a little bit of a hit here, probably because of this big beautiful bill and the amount of money that it's going to tack onto the national debt.
It's really too bad how much of an effect national politicians can have on the state.
It is. It really is, right? And so, do we go into? You know, we got a whole year here, right? Are we going to go into another war? Are we going to get sucked in someplace into Iran? Are we going to continue to fund Ukraine? What are we doing? See, one of the things I think a lot of people don't understand is that when they say the federal government is funding Ukraine, that's not true. You're funding them. Yeah. I'm funding them. We're all funding them. But the average Joe doesn't, not being in politics, and that's not a negative statement, the average person doesn't put that together.
Well, they don't have time to. They're too busy working.
They're too busy working, making the money, right? So to give to Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
So here they are. They're doling out the money to Uncle Sam, and we're spending it at the federal level very irresponsibly. Again, going back to the need to grab at least 2 seats out of the 4, right? We need to do that. And every other state that's in the same boat has got to do that federally. We've got to start there. We've got to start congressionally. CD1, we've got to take a seat in CD1. We need money. I'd encourage people to donate to whoever the winner coming out of that primary is, you know, and who knows who it's going to be. But whoever it is, we got to give a good fight head-to-head with Shaheen's and get them out.
Yeah.
You know, we got Scott Brown coming up for senator. Does he have the juice? I don't know.
Here's the thing about Scott Brown. He won in Massachusetts in 2009?
Yep.
But he's lost 3 races since.
And so, you know, when you consider running for a seat, no matter where you are and who you are, you have to read the tea leaves, and you have to understand, is it right? Is your opposition research good? Right? Is it going to be beneficial for you? Can you take that person out? And then, you know, is it going to wreck your brand if you run against him or her in a primary or just generally anywhere? And if the answer is it could possibly wreck your brand, I'm not saying Scott Brown has a wrecked brand. It's got some dents in the brand, right? It's got a few dents in the brand.
Yeah.
And they're not horrific, but we're not talking about like a shiny Cadillac here. We got an older candidate we're running with maybe not so fresh ideas.
I saw him speak in Conway in March, and he gave a good speech.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Wonderful guy. Musician, talented. His wife's very nice. You know, Gail's nice. Great guy. I just don't know if he's past his prime.
Right.
In politics.
Right. And the speech that he gave was great for the area that he was speaking at, but are they going to be able to go back and find speeches that he gave in Massachusetts 15 years ago? And
you know, the one thing about politics, the longer you're in the game, the more stuff comes up.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
and everything's on camera, so
everything's on camera, everything's heard. You know, and even this podcast like this, right, that you do, or anybody does, or any news broadcast, you could clip this up
any way you want,
and serve it up however you want,
mm-hmm.
and that's it's part of politics.
Yeah,
you know, and I hope we have some candidates that are strong that we can grab some seats here.
Do you think there'll be a lot of Democrat candidates running for those seats, or you think that they're just going to?
So, on the Democratic side, at least in the congressional race in CD1, I think we have you got Maura Sullivan, you've got Stephanie Shaheen, and you've got 2 other gals that I'm not. One of them is in the House. Alice Wade is in the House on the Democratic side with us currently, and there was one more I thought out of Manchester. So I know that there's 4 on that side.
Mm-hmm.
On our side, we have 2. At the moment, my guess is, like I said, we'll have 7 or 8 before it's over, you know. I mean, if there's ever a year to do it, this is the year. Open seat. Having said that, you don't have the president. You're not going to get people off the couch, Republican votes, right? And if they think everything's doing great, they're definitely not getting off the couch.
Why is that?
You know, it's all set mentality. Why fix it if it's not broken? Why do I got to go vote?
You'll lose.
You're just a congressional seat, or you're just a local seat. And sadly, that's how we can be viewed here in Concord. They're not glamorous, glorious seats, right? They're fairly low profile. A lot of people don't even know what a state rep is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there's this piece that we try to educate, and whatnot. They always say that in a non-presidential year and a midterm like this, that there's a real opportunity for some change in party. And I think that could be problematic if we don't recruit.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Well, I hope we're able to do that. I hope, because I mean, it's good that we have as many independents that we do in this state. It's good that there are people that don't just fall in line with one party. I mean, Democrats seem to, like you said, they do a great job at falling in line and doing whatever they're supposed to do, but they win sometimes. You know, they've won every state around us in the state elections. And like you said, it's creeping in southern New Hampshire. It's creeping in pockets around New Hampshire. And people need to realize that, because New England's going to be a completely blue area if New Hampshire falls, and Maine's having a tough time getting back
Here's what I can tell you. Podcasts like this are important. And that's why I decided to come on this show today. What you're doing is a huge service to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe not all the things that your guests like me say are the right answers, right, for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, you're getting a real feel for what your candidates look like, what your reps look like, and, you know, what it takes to be a rep. Is it time consuming? And it's almost like you're giving a snapshot of this to any would-be or potential candidates.
Yeah.
This is a good tutorial on, you know, and going through procedure. And, you know, you got to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and lunch is at noon usually. And, you know,
really put yourself out there as a state rep.
You definitely.
Everybody knows all your personal information.
Yep.
And you can't please everybody.
Yep.
And you don't really have much reward unless it's really just in your own pride of the civil duty that you're doing. And the monetary reward isn't there.
Monetary's not there. This is absolutely nothing to do with money. It's absolutely nothing to do with any type of payoffs or anything like that. There's none of that really at this level. There's people that will donate to you with very small amounts of money, maybe just to be able to have a conversation with you or because they believe in you, right? Really, you have to want to do this to truly be able to help your neighbor.
Yeah.
Right? And if you feel like you can, this isn't always about passing legislation. It can be about stopping bad legislation.
Yeah.
You know, or being that one vote to stop something, or being the voice in committee amongst people that are either retired and maybe they don't want to speak out, or you get some younger kids that don't have the energy to speak out or the guts to speak out that are on the committee. And we have a lot of young kids in there. And fortunately, on the Republican side, they're pretty boisterous and they're pretty smart kids. You know, but there's a lot of people that are pretty quiet and humble, and they do their thing. And certain reps are needed in certain committees. And I believe that, again, leadership really stood up to this, and leadership handpicked all the committees, and they put the right players on the right teams from one committee to the other. They did a great job, and our wins show it this year. In my opinion, you know, I have not been on a losing year. But in my opinion, I think this was probably one of the strongest years the Republican Party's had. We had the numbers to do it. Now we just got to figure out a way to keep those numbers.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you right now, it's pretty nice watching 105 votes go off on a day, on a Thursday. And out of 105 votes, we win 105 votes. That's pretty nice. And by big numbers. You know, 180 to 147 or whatever it is, right? It's really a fulfilling thing to know that you're helping your Republican constituents. And luckily, New Hampshire traditionally has always been a Republican state, right? We've had a little bit of mix here and there. The one thing that is going to kill us if we don't fix it is, like I keep saying, the 4-seat delegation in Washington. If we don't fix that, we're going to get killed, because that's going to be the Trojan horse. That's going to be the leak into the rest of us. If that keeps going the way it's going, we need to stop that. We need to get somebody to kick in some money to get these people elected.
Yep.
And the saddest part about the whole thing at that level is it's all about money. You have to buy name, especially for the newbies. We got a couple newbies, right? You've got to buy the name ID.
Well, Brian, I want to thank you for taking the trip up here, sitting down, and giving us all the insight that you have brought with you. And do you have any links, any websites that you want to promote while you're on here?
Yeah, so first of all, happy to be here, happy to do this. Down the road as things progress, happy to do it again. My links to my website is easy. It's brianlabrie.com, and that takes you right there. That'll get you the X, that'll get you the Facebook, that'll get you to everything. If you're interested, last closing thoughts here for me is, if you're interested as a candidate, call one of us. Go to lunch with one of us. You know, if you're in Bedford and you want to talk, or wherever, let's go talk about it. We need people that are intelligent and dedicated. You're out there. And don't be afraid. It's not a big leap, especially at a rep level.
We also need people to get involved and volunteer as well.
You got to get people to volunteer. We need operatives, right? You need door knockers. You need whatever. And I will say Bedford Republican Committee has a wonderful support group. We got a good group that's super helpful to the reps and to the senator.
Well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Yep.
And keep up the good work.
All right. Well, thanks. Good to meet you.
Thank you, Brian.